My husband had already planned my death. I just didn't know it until I saw my name inside his life insurance file labeled Fatal Payout Scenario. My name is Emma Walker. I'm 32 years old, and I work as a legal analyst in Chicago, so I know exactly how people hide crimes inside legal documents and make them look like accidents or financial decisions. That's why what happened that night didn't feel like confusion to me. It felt like discovery. Daniel Carter, my husband of 5 years, came home suddenly acting like his entire life was collapsing, saying his construction company was drowning in debt, investors were pulling out, and we would lose everything within weeks. He looked desperate, tired, almost broken, and for a moment I almost believed him because he was good at it, too good. But something about his behavior didn't match his story. The timing of his panic felt rehearsed, like he had been waiting for the right moment to perform it in front of me. The way he kept checking his phone after every sentence, the way he avoided direct eye contact when I asked simple questions, the way he suddenly became overly affectionate like he was trying to secure my trust instead of share his pain. Later that night, everything changed in seconds. He went to shower and left his laptop open on the kitchen table, screen still glowing, folders unlocked like he forgot I existed in the same house. I walked past it just to close it, but one folder name stopped me cold. Final exit strategy, liability clearance. I clicked it. And inside were financial documents that didn't look like bankruptcy plans, they looked like a calculated removal plan. Offshore accounts I had never heard of. Insurance restructuring forms I never signed. And then one line that made my stomach drop instantly. Primary subject, Emma Walker, risk resolution required for payout activation. I froze because I understood exactly what that meant. This wasn't about saving his business, it was about clearing me out of the system. I snapped the laptop shut the moment I heard the bathroom door open, forcing my face to stay normal while my heart was beating so hard I thought he would hear it through my skin. When Daniel came back, calm and smiling like nothing existed beyond our marriage, he kissed my forehead and said, "Don't worry, Emma. I would never let anything happen to you." That sentence should have made me feel safe. Instead, it made me feel targeted. Because I knew now, sometimes danger doesn't threaten you, it reassures you. That night, I waited until he fell asleep, then opened the laptop again, digging deeper into encrypted messages labeled Advisor. And that's when I found it. The message that turned my fear into certainty. If she dies before restructuring completes, liabilities reset, and full asset transfer triggers. In that moment, I wasn't his wife anymore. I was a financial problem with a deadline, and I had just discovered I was already inside the countdown. After seeing that message, I didn't sleep that night. I just lay next to Daniel, listening to him breathe like nothing in the world was wrong, while my mind kept replaying the same line over and over again. If she dies, assets transfer. That wasn't debt planning. That was execution planning. The next morning, he acted normal again, too normal. He made breakfast, kissed me goodbye, even joked about how we should take a vacation once everything stabilizes, like he wasn't secretly organizing my removal from his life. But now I wasn't reacting like a wife anymore. I was watching him like evidence. As soon as he left, I started searching everything, his emails, his old files, his hidden folders, anything I could legally access without alerting him. And that's when I found the first crack in his fake bankruptcy story. There were no real creditor notices, no court filings, no liquidation warnings. Instead, I found clean financial transfers going out of his business accounts into offshore holdings under shell company names I had never heard before. Money wasn't leaving him, it was disappearing on purpose. But the real shock came when I dug deeper into his advisor contact. It wasn't a business consultant. It was a private insurance broker specializing in high-risk claim restructuring. And attached to one of their conversations was something worse than anything I expected. Life insurance policy updates under my name, increased coverage, and a recent change adding Daniel as sole beneficiary with accelerated payout conditions in case of unexpected accidental death during financial distress period. My hands started shaking because I finally understood the structure of it all. He wasn't just planning to benefit from my death, he was designing the conditions for it. I closed everything instantly when I heard footsteps at the front door. Daniel came back early. I forced myself to act normal, sitting on the couch pretending to scroll my phone while my entire body felt like it was on fire. He looked at me carefully for a second, like he was scanning for any change in my behavior, then smiled and sat beside me like nothing had shifted between us. That was the moment I realized something even more dangerous. He was starting to monitor me too. That night, I made a decision I couldn't undo. I secretly took photos of everything I found and sent them to a secure email account I created years ago for work emergencies. But just as I was finishing, Daniel walked into the room without warning. My screen was still open. My heart stopped. For a split second, I thought it was over. But he didn't react. He just looked at me, smiled softly, and said, "You're working late again?" Then he kissed my shoulder and left. And that's when I understood the second truth. Either he hadn't seen it or he wanted me to know he could let me see it. And that made everything worse. Because now I wasn't just trapped in his plan. I was inside a game I didn't fully understand yet, and I was no longer sure whether I was being hunted or tested. After that night, I stopped reacting like a scared wife and started behaving like someone who was quietly studying a predator. I didn't confront Daniel. I didn't question him. I didn't even change my routine in a way he could detect. Instead, I became exactly what he expected, a calm, slightly worried wife trying to support her struggling husband. And that was the dangerous part because it worked. Daniel relaxed. He started acting more natural again, like I had fallen back into the role he needed me to play. He talked about debts more openly now, even showed me fake emails from creditors, carefully designed to look real at a glance, but completely unverifiable if you looked deeper. I nodded, listened, even asked sympathetic questions like I believed every word. But inside, I was counting every inconsistency. Because the more he talked, the clearer it became. His story wasn't breaking down under pressure, it was being carefully performed. Then came my first real opening. One evening, he left his phone on the kitchen counter while taking a call outside. It was unlocked, just long enough. I didn't hesitate. I picked it up casually like I was moving it aside, and activated the mirrored sync I had secretly set up using a work security app. What appeared on my smartwatch wasn't random. It was a structured system of conversations. Multiple contacts. Multiple layers. Advisor. R. Plan B. And right there, in the middle of it, was something that made my breathing slow. Messages discussing controlled timing, accidental trigger conditions, and insurance activation window confirmation. There was no confusion anymore. This wasn't debt collapse. This was a schedule. I barely had time to process it when I heard footsteps coming back inside. I locked the screen instantly and placed the phone exactly where it was. Daniel walked in, smiling lightly, as if nothing in the world had shifted. He looked at me for a second longer than usual, like he was scanning for change, then kissed my forehead and sat down. That brief pause told me something important. He was starting to watch me more carefully now. Not openly, but like someone who was beginning to test whether his plan was still stable. That night, I escalated. I couldn't rely on digital access alone anymore. I needed audio proof, something permanent, something undeniable. I went out the next morning and bought a small keychain recorder disguised as a regular accessory. No wires, no obvious tech, nothing he could recognize. I tested it twice before coming home. Then I placed it inside a ceramic vase in the living room, the exact spot Daniel always stood when he made private calls. It was risky. If he noticed anything off, everything would collapse. But I didn't have time to be safe anymore. That evening, Daniel took the exact bait I was hoping for. He received a call and walked into the living room instead of stepping outside. His voice dropped instantly.
Calm.
Controlled. Strategic. I stayed upstairs, sitting perfectly still, pretending to be asleep while the recorder captured everything below. At first it was normal talk, numbers, references, legal phrasing designed to disguise intent. Then the tone shifted. I heard him clearly say, "Once the stress event is triggered, it must appear accidental. She cannot suspect anything before payout clears." My chest tightened so hard it felt like my ribs locked in place. There it was. The confirmation. Not fear. Not theory. A planned execution wrapped in legal language. But then something happened that changed everything again. A second voice came through the call. Female.
Calm.
Extremely confident. And she didn't sound like an assistant or emotional partner. She sounded like someone who understood structure. She said, "Make sure she signs the updated beneficiary documents herself. That removes all liability risk." I didn't move. I didn't even blink. Because in that moment, the plan expanded in my mind. This wasn't just about killing me anymore. It was about making me agree to my own removal. When the call ended, I stayed completely still upstairs for several minutes, listening to Daniel move around downstairs like nothing had happened. And that's when I realized the most dangerous part of all this. He didn't think I was a threat. He thought I was already contained. But now I knew the truth. I wasn't just inside his plan anymore. I was inside a system designed by two people who believed I would never see the structure behind it. And for the first time since this started, I stopped thinking about survival. I started thinking about reversal. After hearing that second voice on the recording, I stopped thinking like a victim and started thinking like someone who already knew the end of a story, but just hadn't written my version yet. Daniel didn't know I had audio proof. He didn't know I had mirrored his phone. And most importantly, he didn't know I had already started preparing a counter move inside his own plan. The next morning, he acted normal again, almost relaxed, like whatever he and that woman were planning was moving forward exactly on schedule. He even brought home printed documents that he casually placed on the kitchen counter, like they meant nothing. "Just restructuring paperwork," he said lightly. "The lawyer says we need to simplify everything for the bank review." But I knew better now. Nothing in his hands was just paperwork. I looked at the documents while pretending to skim them. They were full of legal language, asset redistribution, insurance clarification, spousal authorization forms. But what stood out was one line buried in the middle: voluntary beneficiary confirmation signature required. That wasn't restructuring. That was consent. If I signed those papers, I would legally approve changes that could tie everything, my name, my assets, my insurance, exactly into the structure they were building. Daniel watched me carefully as I read, pretending to be stressed but cooperative. "It's just temporary, Emma," he said softly. "Once things stabilize, we reverse everything." That word, reverse, almost made me laugh, because now I understood his entire strategy. He wasn't just planning my death. He was building paperwork that would make it look like I agreed to everything before it happened. That night, I made my move. I didn't refuse the documents. I didn't argue. I didn't show suspicion. Instead, I told him something he didn't expect. I said I wanted to support him fully, that I didn't want lawyers confusing things, that I trusted him completely, and just wanted to finish this phase together. His expression changed instantly. Not relief, not love, calculation. Because that reaction was exactly what he wanted. He even smiled like I had just stepped into his trap willingly. "That's all I needed to hear," he said. But what he didn't know was that I had already contacted my own legal advisor using a separate encrypted channel. I sent them every document image I had taken earlier and asked one question: if I sign something under misrepresentation of financial intent, can it be reversed and used as evidence of fraud? The answer came back quickly. Yes, but only if I had proof of intent behind it. That was the key. I didn't just need signatures. I needed motive exposed. The next day, Daniel brought the final set of documents. This time he was more careful. He watched me closely as he placed them in front of me, almost like he was testing whether I would hesitate. "Just one signature," he said. "Then everything stabilizes." I picked up the pen slowly. My hand didn't shake. My face didn't show fear. But inside, I was counting every second because I had already done something he didn't expect. I had swapped the document packet earlier that morning while he was in the shower. The pages looked identical. Same formatting. Same structure. But the legal content had been quietly altered through my attorney's intervention, redirecting asset authority protections and embedding a verification clause that would require full disclosure of any third-party insurance modifications. In simple terms, if he tried to activate his plan, he would legally expose himself in the process. I signed. Daniel smiled immediately, like he had just won something. He took the documents and left the room faster than usual, already texting someone as he walked away. And for the first time, I saw urgency in his behavior. Not calm confidence anymore, pressure. Because what he didn't realize yet was simple. He thought I had just stepped into his final stage, but in reality, I had just turned his system into a trap he didn't design. That night, I retrieved the hidden recorder again. The next phone call came sooner than expected. Daniel was speaking fast now, more tense than before. And then I heard it, his voice breaking slightly as he said, "She signed everything. We're clear to proceed." There was a pause. Then the woman's voice responded, colder than before. "Good. Then the window opens tonight." And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. Whatever they planned wasn't in the future anymore. It was about to happen in real time. After I heard the words, "The window opens tonight," I knew the story had entered its final phase. There was no more guessing, no more digging slowly, no more waiting for proof to appear by accident. Whatever Daniel and that woman had planned, it was no longer preparation. It was execution. But what Daniel didn't know was that I had already prepared for exactly this moment. I didn't call him out. I didn't run. I didn't even change my behavior. I stayed calm, almost softer than before, like I was fully trusting him again. And that made him comfortable. Too comfortable. He kept checking his phone, answering short messages, pacing slightly more than usual, but when he looked at me, he smiled like everything was finally falling into place. That evening, he insisted we go out for dinner. "One normal night," he said, "before everything gets better." But I noticed the detail he didn't realize mattered. He chose a restaurant far from home, quiet, private, low surveillance. It wasn't romantic. It was controlled. Still, I agreed. Because I wanted him to believe he was still in control of the timeline. At dinner, he was unusually attentive, asking me about future plans, talking about travel, even suggesting we should start fresh once the financial situation stabilizes. Every word felt rehearsed, like he was building emotional cover for something already decided elsewhere. I nodded, smiled, played the part perfectly. But underneath the table, my phone was already recording everything, synced to the backup system I had hidden in my cloud account. When we got home that night, the air felt different. He didn't turn on the lights immediately. He stood in the hallway for a few seconds too long, like he was listening for something only he could hear. Then he walked in, kissed me lightly, and said he was going to take a shower. That was the moment everything tightened, because in his pattern that meant timing was close. I quietly moved to the living room and checked the hidden recorder inside the vase. Battery full. Active. Recording. 10 minutes later, his phone rang. I stayed still. I didn't move. I let it happen. He answered in the bathroom, voice low but sharper now, more direct than before. "She's home. Everything is aligned," he said. Then silence. Then the woman's voice again, calm, precise. "Once she's asleep, proceed with step 2. Make it look like a normal incident." My pulse didn't rise. I already knew this was coming. What I didn't know was how fast. I went upstairs and lay down, pretending to sleep. The house went quiet for a few minutes. Too quiet. Then I heard him move. Not casually. Not normally. Carefully. Like someone checking timing. Then footsteps toward the kitchen. Then silence again. That's when I got the notification on my backup device. The living room recorder had picked up movement, and a new audio stream started. Daniel's voice came through clearly now, no longer calm. "It has to look accidental. No signs. No trace." Then another pause. Then something metallic in the background. My entire body went still, but my face didn't move. Because I wasn't reacting anymore. I was documenting. And then it happened. A loud crash. Not from upstairs. From downstairs. Followed by silence that lasted too long. Then Daniel's voice again, but different this time. Urgent, controlled panic trying to hide itself. No, that wasn't supposed to happen yet. That was the first crack. Because whatever he had planned had already started going wrong. And I hadn't even made my move yet. The crash downstairs wasn't random anymore. I knew that sound meant the plan had officially moved from intention to action. I stayed perfectly still upstairs, listening through the hidden recorder feed, waiting for the next sound, the next voice, the next mistake. Daniel's breathing was on the audio now, faster, uneven, like something had gone off script. No, That wasn't supposed to happen yet, he repeated again, but this time there was no confidence in his voice. Just panic trying to stay organized. Then I heard another sound. Footsteps moving quickly, then a pause, then the woman's voice again, but now sharper, no longer calm. "What did you do?" she asked. Daniel answered too fast. "I didn't do anything. She was supposed to be asleep." That sentence changed everything. Because I was still awake. And I was listening. I quietly sat up in bed, not making a single sound, and activated the final step of my counter system. Every recording, phone mirror logs, insurance documents, hidden audio from the vase, and the live feed from tonight was already being duplicated in real time to my attorney, my secured cloud server, and one emergency contact at the Legal Oversight Bureau I had quietly prepared days earlier. Daniel thought he was controlling timing, but I had already distributed the evidence across systems he couldn't access or erase. Downstairs, things escalated. I heard movement again, faster now, like someone searching for something or trying to fix a mistake. Then Daniel's voice rose, no longer controlled. "She changed something. The documents, something's wrong with the documents." A long silence followed. Then the woman responded, colder now, but clearly unsettled. "You said she signed them correctly." Daniel didn't answer immediately. That hesitation told me everything. For the first time, he didn't have control of the situation. I stood up slowly and walked to the top of the stairs. I didn't announce myself. I didn't need to. My voice was enough. "You're right," I said calmly. "Something is wrong with the documents." The entire house froze. Daniel looked up instantly. Even in the dim light, I could see it, his confidence collapsing in real time. The woman on the call went silent. I continued, step by step, walking down the stairs. "You thought I signed approval for your insurance trigger," I said. "But what I signed was a legally altered structure that flags any coordinated financial or physical risk attempt as premeditated fraud." Daniel's face changed. Not anger first, confusion. Then fear. Because he understood what that meant. If anything happened to me now, it wouldn't look like an accident anymore. It would immediately connect to him. "No," he whispered. "That's not possible." I stopped at the bottom of the stairs. My phone was already recording everything in my hand. "You really underestimated me," I said quietly. "You didn't marry someone naive. You married someone who reads contracts for a living." The woman's voice came through the phone speaker now, urgent. "Daniel, stop talking." But it was too late. Because I had already said the final trigger sentence out loud, my emergency phrase that activated real-time evidence transmission to law enforcement. Within seconds, sirens echoed outside. Daniel froze. For the first time in the entire story, he had no next move. The front door burst open. Police lights flooded the house. Officers entered fast, coordinated, already acting on live, transmitted evidence. Daniel stepped back instinctively, looking at me like he couldn't understand how the ending changed. The woman on the call hung up instantly. And in that moment, everything collapsed at once. Daniel was taken into custody without resistance. The hidden insurance network flagged. The offshore transfers frozen. The entire structure he built around my planned removal exposed in real time through my recordings and legal countersignature. As he was being let out, he turned back once, eyes shaking, voice low and broken. "You planned this from the beginning." I didn't answer immediately. Then I said the only truth that mattered. "No. I just realized your mistake early." And I watched him leave. Weeks later, everything unraveled publicly. The investigation confirmed the insurance manipulation attempt, the financial fraud network, and the coordinated plan involving a third-party advisor. Daniel's case became a high-profile legal collapse. I didn't attend the headlines. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even feel relief at first, just silence. But silence eventually turned into something else. Freedom. Because the moment it all ended, I realized something simple. He thought he was building a plan to erase me. But all he really did was teach me how to end his.